I still remember the sound. Not of shattering glass or raised voices, nothing dramatic like you might expect when a marriage implodes. No, just a soft, cheerful ping. That little sound your phone makes when it gets a message. That was the moment my world began to unravel. Miles was in the shower. I was folding laundry, doing what I'd always done, keeping the household running like a well-oiled machine while he juggled courtrooms and corporate clients. That night was like any other, except it wasn't. The light from his phone lit up the dresser. My eyes flicked to it, then away. I never checked Miles's phone. That wasn't who I was. After 15 years of marriage, trust was a given. Or so I thought. But something in me froze that night. A subtle shift. Maybe it was the way he'd been lately. The late nights. The sudden obsession with working out. His new cologne that made our bedroom smell like someone else's idea of romance. Maybe it was how his eyes didn't meet mine anymore unless he needed something. I told myself it was stress. Work. But deep down, I knew something was off. And that ping? It felt like confirmation. I shouldn't have done it. I know that. But my feet moved on their own, and before I could tuck myself down, I was holding his phone. Just to check the message, I told myself. Nothing more. There it was. Reservation confirmed at Alara for Friday, 8 p.m. She'll love the private booth. My stomach twisted. Alara wasn't just any restaurant. It was our special place, where we celebrated my tenure at the university, where he proposed to me with a trembling voice and a sapphire ring. A private booth? For her? I should have dropped the phone, returned it to the dresser, and pretended I never saw it. But some deep instinct took over. Something primal. The kind that wakes up when your body knows before your heart can catch up. I unlocked the phone. His passcode hadn't changed. 0912. Our anniversary. That irony burned. And then I saw it all. Her name was Sloane Mercer. She worked in the communications department at his firm. There were texts going back months. Photos. Inside jokes. Plans. He told her she made him feel alive. That he hadn't felt this kind of spark in years. He used phrases he used to say to me. Only now, they were hers. One photo in particular did me in. Them on a rooftop, wine glasses clinking, her head tilted back in laughter. I knew that laugh. I had studied that same kind of moment in our own photos once. My hands were trembling when I placed his phone back exactly where it had been. My breath came out in small bursts, like I was recovering from a sprint. I could hear the water still running. I had about 30 seconds to compose myself. He called from the bathroom, casual as always. Cam, have you seen my blue tie? The silk one. I don't know how I did it. Maybe it was shock. Maybe something inside me split off and took the hit for the rest of me. Second drawer, I said, steady as ever. He came out, wrapped in a towel, humming, kissed my cheek. I let him. That was the part that almost made me laugh or scream. Here was a man planning a romantic evening with another woman, and I was still giving him wardrobe tips. That night, I lay in bed beside him, staring at the ceiling, listening to him breathe like nothing had changed. But everything had. And I knew right then that if I confronted him, he would lie. He would call it a misunderstanding. He would twist the truth until I couldn't trust my own instincts anymore. No, I wasn't going to play that game. I was done being the supportive wife while he lived a double life. The next morning, I kissed him goodbye. He was leaving early for a deposition. I smiled, even wished him luck. Then I called in sick. And for the first time in 15 years, I began investigating my own husband. It wasn't hard. Miles had become so confident in my trust that he'd stopped covering his tracks. His email password was the same. His calendar? Wide open. I found the reservation at Alara, tagged under a client name that didn't exist. I scrolled further and found an apartment listing he'd inquired about. 1 bedroom. Close to Sloane's building. And there, in an email thread, was her full name. Sloane Mercer. It took all of 10 minutes to find her online. Public social media profiles are a gift when you're trying to piece together betrayal. And right there on her profile was a smiling man in a tailored suit with his arm around her. Adrian Cross, her husband, an award-winning architect with a firm downtown. That's when the second wave hit. Not anger, not heartbreak. Strategy. Because suddenly, it wasn't just my marriage that was a lie. Hers was too. And if Miles and Sloane wanted to play house in secret, I would play architect in the light. I didn't call Adrian right away. No, that would be too easy. Too emotional. It would give them a chance to spin a story, to bury the truth under convenience. No, I needed something better. Something unforgettable. I sat at the kitchen island, the same place Miles had proposed a toast to our future 5 years ago. Now, I planned their undoing. I called Alara. The host remembered Miles. Of course, he'd reserved their best booth under his corporate account. I told them I needed a table for 2. Same time. Near that booth. Business dinner, I said. Possible collaboration. I needed to be close in case we merged parties later. We can seat you directly beside it, the host said. Perfect. Next, Adrian. I sent a perfectly professional email from my university account. Invited him to participate in an upcoming executive series at Northbridge. Suggested we discuss it over dinner. I already had a reservation. Friday. Alara. His response was prompt. Gracious. Interested. He had no idea. And that was when the fear in me transformed into something else. Precision. Focus. A calm I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was reclaiming. Friday night would not be the end of my story. It would be the beginning of something they never saw coming. You'd think plotting your husband's silent exposure would bring some sense of satisfaction. It didn't. Not yet. Just a slow, hollow burn in the center of my chest where my trust used to be. I spent most of Wednesday shadowing the ghost of the life I thought I had. Miles came home that night humming a tune I didn't recognize. He kissed my cheek, tossed his briefcase on the entry table, and asked what was for dinner. Like he hadn't booked a romantic booth for 2 with another man's wife. Like my heart wasn't being held together with masking tape. Ty, I said. Thought I'd try that recipe you liked. He lit up. The peanut sauce one? Damn, Cam. You're spoiling me. Yeah, that's me. Camilla Foster. Spoiler of adulterers. I poured him a glass of wine and smiled like everything was fine. It wasn't. I was watching him now, closely. The way his phone never left his side. The way he glanced down mid-conversation, subtly smiling at messages he didn't want me to see. The fake work stress. The client dinners. All of it. Thursday morning over coffee, he brought it up like it was nothing. I've got that big dinner tomorrow night, he said, buttering toast. Don't wait up. It might run late. I almost choked on my coffee. You mean the merger meeting? I asked lightly. He paused, then nodded quickly. Yeah, that. He couldn't even remember the lie he'd told me the first time. That's how casual it had become for him. Deception woven into small talk. I nodded. Hope it's productive. He looked relieved, as if the biggest threat to his scheme had been appeased by a few crumbs of fake detail. 15 years together, and he was betting on my blindness. Adrian Cross, Executive Series Guest Dinner Proposal. Camilla, thank you for your invitation. I'd be honored to speak with your students about sustainable urban planning. Alara works perfectly. Looking forward to Friday night. Adrian. Alara worked perfectly, all right. I spent the next hour researching him. Not in a stalker way, just enough to know who I'd be sitting beside for 2 hours while watching our spouses flirt over overpriced truffle pasta. Adrian was in his early 40s. Handsome in that quiet, self-assured way. Distinguished gray at his temples. Built his firm, cross-line design, from the ground up. No kids. Public interviews painted him as intelligent, driven, and community-minded. He and Sloane had been married 7 years. 7 years she was willing to throw away for secret lunch breaks and text bubbles with my husband. I wasn't sure what Adrian would say once he found out, but I wasn't worried. There was a strange relief in not having to carry the truth alone anymore. I spent the rest of Thursday picking out what I'd wear. Nothing too showy. I didn't want to look like I was competing with Sloane because I wasn't. I didn't need to win some imaginary beauty contest to prove my worth. This wasn't about revenge glamour. This was about being seen. I chose a navy blue sheath dress. Elegant, tailored. A pair of pearl earrings Miles had given me on our 10th anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. And then, the shoes. Red-soled heels. The ones he'd once mocked as a little too much for a faculty dinner. I smiled as I slid them into the overnight bag I tucked in the trunk of my car. That night, I barely slept. Not out of fear, but anticipation. For the first time since I saw that message, I felt steady. This wasn't an impulsive reaction. It was the slow turning of a wheel that had been misaligned for years. I wasn't going to scream or cry in public or lose my mind. I was going to sit down, eat dinner, and drop a truth bomb so silently it echoed louder than any public meltdown could. On Friday, I woke up early, did my makeup slowly, booked a hair appointment, a gentle wave to my usual straight style. A small shift. Like me. Still the same woman, just different now. When I walked into Alara that night, everything smelled the same. Aged wine, garlic butter, the clink of glasses, elegant lighting, fresh flowers. The kind of place that made you whisper even if you weren't hiding anything. The maitre d' recognized me instantly. I had called ahead twice. Told him the importance of my dinner. "Your table's ready, Professor Foster," he said with a polite smile. "Mr. Cross called earlier. He's on his way." I smiled back. "And the booth? Reserved under Mr. Callahan. They're expected any minute." "Of course. Miles Callahan. Not Miles Foster." God forbid his real name be associated with this fantasy. Even in cheating, he kept the performance pristine. I sat at the bar, ordered a martini, and waited. Every second stretched like elastic. Then I saw him. Miles. Dressed to kill. The suit I'd bought him last year for his firm's awards dinner. The same smile I used to think was just for me. Now it belonged to her. He scanned the room, phone in hand, and was escorted to the private booth. 15 minutes later, she appeared. And there she was, Sloane Mercer. Real, glowing, oblivious. She wore red. Of course she did. Confident, flirtatious, dazzling in all the ways someone with no consequences can afford to be. She placed her hand on his shoulder. He stood to greet her, kissed her like she was his entire world. My stomach twisted, but I didn't flinch. "Camilla?" a voice said behind me. I turned. Adrian Cross. Even in his confusion, he looked grounded. He smiled, offered his hand. "Mr. Cross." "Thanks for coming," I said with a calm I didn't know I still had. He smiled. "Please." "Adrian." We sat at our table, right beside theirs. The maitre d' had placed it perfectly, just enough distance to not draw suspicion, but enough proximity for every gesture to be visible. Every stolen touch. Every lie made manifest in the flicker of candlelight. Adrian unfolded his napkin, ready to talk about architecture and academia. And I watched the countdown begin. Adrian was mid-sentence about sustainable building materials when I saw it, Miles's hand reaching across the table to touch Sloane's. I had to look away for a moment. Not because I couldn't stomach it. I'd already seen the worst in digital ink. No, what got me wasn't the touch. It was the look on his face. He was happy. At peace. Like everything in the world had finally clicked into place for him. That smile he gave her? I hadn't seen it in years. It wasn't guilt-ridden or complicated. It was soft. Real. Intimate in a way that felt cruelly natural. I turned back to Adrian, trying to keep my voice steady. "So, you're working on the Marlowe Towers project?" I asked, taking a sip of my water. He lit up. Yes, actually. It's one of our most ambitious developments. Green roofing, solar walls, community gardens on every floor. His passion was obvious. His hands moved as he spoke, his eyes glowing with ideas. He was a man proud of his work, proud of his life. God, he didn't know. Just 20 feet away, his wife was sharing a bottle of wine with mine. I wanted to reach across the table and touch his arm, to stop him from giving any more of himself to a world that had already made him the punchline of someone else's secret. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I watched the game unfold from the sidelines. Sloane was laughing loud enough to turn heads, but not obnoxious. A kind of laugh that said, "Look at me, I'm alive." Miles leaned in, whispering something in her ear. She threw her head back, touched her collarbone like a woman in a perfume ad. Adrian looked down at his menu. "Everything here looks amazing," he said casually. "Any favorites?" I almost answered the duck confit, but that had been our dish. Mine and Miles's. Now it belonged to her, too, probably. "I usually stick with the sea bass," I said, brushing a stray hair from my cheek. "Hard to mess up." "I trust your judgment," he smiled. "You seem like someone who plans things carefully." "You have no idea, Adrian." Just then, Sloane stood up, adjusting her dress. She walked toward the restroom, unaware of her proximity to me. As she passed, her perfume followed, a floral, expensive scent I couldn't name. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and didn't recognize me. That would be poetic. She disappeared around the corner. I looked across the room. Miles was watching her walk away like she'd just granted him oxygen. Adrian followed my gaze. "She looks familiar," he said softly, more to himself than me. I turned my eyes to him. "That's your wife," I said quietly. The words dropped like a brick in still water. He blinked. Once. Twice. "What?" I folded my hands. "And the man in the booth? That's my husband." He froze, his breath caught halfway in his chest. His eyes darted back to the booth, then to me, then back again. "No," he whispered. "That can't be. His name is Miles Foster. He's been having an affair with Sloane for nearly a year. I found out on Monday." Adrian's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "I'm sorry," I added. And I meant it. Genuinely. He exhaled, sitting back like the wind had been knocked out of him. I watched his hands. How they clenched into fists, then relaxed. He didn't say anything for a long time. When he finally spoke, it was barely a whisper. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "I have screenshots. Emails. A dinner reservation at this exact restaurant. Tonight." He looked over at the booth. His face contorted. Not with rage, not immediately. It was something softer. Disbelief. Grief. The kind you feel when the world shifts and you're the only one who didn't get the memo. "I had no idea," he said. "She told me she was working late tonight. She packed her laptop, even." "They usually tell the same stories," I replied. "Business dinners. Late meetings. Exhaustion." A pause. "And you invited me here too? What?" The maitre d' didn't flinch, which told me this wasn't the first time a foretop was needed for two affairs and the people they broke. "Of course, madam," he said with a practiced, sympathetic smile. "We have a private room available in the back. Shall I set it up immediately?" "Yes," I replied, "and perhaps keep the wine flowing. This is going to be educational." Behind me, I could hear Miles and Sloane trailing in awkward silence, unsure if they should follow or flee. They followed. Because that's what cowards do. They don't run until they're cornered. The maitre d' led us down a hallway past frosted glass and soft piano music, then opened a pair of dark wooden doors into a private dining space. Low lighting, round table, a single flickering candle in the center. The irony? It was romantic. Too romantic. Adrian and I sat on one side, our chairs angled slightly toward each other in quiet solidarity. Miles and Sloane sat across from us like two defendants awaiting trial. The symbolic layout didn't go unnoticed. If this were court, Adrian and I were prosecution and jury. They were guilty as hell. We sat in silence at first. I let them stew in it, let them sit with their lies. Miles cleared his throat. Camilla, No, I said. You'll speak when I'm ready. Not before. He recoiled like I'd slapped him. Good. I turned to Sloane. So, let's start with the basics. How long? She hesitated. I'm not sure. Lie again and I walk out, Adrian said, his voice low and sharp. Sloane flinched. 11 months, she whispered. Adrian closed his eyes. Was it only emotional at first? I asked. She looked down. No. Was it ever going to end? Adrian added. I don't know. That answer wasn't good enough. I looked at Miles now. Did you love her? He didn't answer right away. I thought I did, he finally said. No. Not it was a mistake. Just that. I nodded. And what about me? What was I? A roommate with benefits? A life support machine you forgot to unplug. Camilla, that's not fair. Neither is what you did. He looked down. Shame danced across his face, but it didn't stick. I could see it already. He was trying to pivot into the remorseful, misunderstood husband. He wanted to salvage his image. Adrian leaned forward, his voice colder now. Did you ever stop to think what you were doing to us? To the people who trusted you the most? Neither of them spoke. I want to know one thing, Adrian continued, looking directly at Sloane. Was there ever a moment, just one, where you stopped yourself and said, no, he doesn't deserve this? Tears welled in her eyes. I was unhappy, she whispered. I felt invisible. You were always working. Adrian stood. Do not shift this. Don't make this about spreadsheets and deadlines. I didn't plan for it to happen. Miles added, neither did I. I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. Right. You both tripped and fell into nearly a year of secret dinners, lies, and plans for an apartment in Westwood. Adrian froze. What? I turned to him gently. They were going to get a place. Together. 1 bedroom. Lease inquiry was in his email. Sloane buried her face in her hands. Miles looked like he wanted the floor to open and swallow him. I can explain. Stop, I said, raising my hand. Stop trying to dress this up. It wasn't a mistake. It was a series of choices. You chose this. You chose to lie. You chose to touch her while I slept beside you at night. Don't insult me by pretending it was an accident. The door creaked as the server entered with water and a bread basket. He paused, sensing the tension, then quietly placed the items on the table and disappeared. Nobody touched the bread. For a long time, no one said anything. The only sound was the gentle hum of the restaurant filtering in through the frosted glass. Then Adrian broke the silence. I never thought I'd be here, he said, softly. I thought my life was stable. Good. Not perfect, but built on something real. I nodded. So did I. He looked at me. I keep wondering if I miss signs. Little things. You didn't miss them, I said. You trusted her. Like I trusted him. That's not blindness. That's love. Real love. Sloane whispered, I didn't mean to destroy everything. But you did, I said. And the worst part? You didn't even have the decency to come clean. You were still lying when we sat down tonight. You would have kept lying tomorrow. And the day after. That's who you are now. Miles finally spoke, trying to gain ground. Camilla, please. We've been together 15 years. Yes, I interrupted. 15 years where I moved cities for your job. Missed promotions to support your ambitions. Took care of your mother when she was dying. Held you through your father's funeral. Don't you dare reduce all of that to a bullet point in your apology. He was silent. You could have asked for a divorce, I said. You could have been honest. Instead, you lit our life on fire and hoped I wouldn't notice the smoke. Sloane whispered to Adrian, I don't know what to say. Try goodbye, he replied coldly. The silence returned. It was heavier now. Final. I pulled a hotel key from my purse and slid it across the table toward Miles. I booked a suite at the Andress across the street. I won't be coming home. You have until Monday to pack what you need. His mouth fell open. You're throwing me out? No, Miles. You threw yourself out when you decided I was disposable. And what about us? Sloane asked Adrian quietly. He stood. There is no us, he said. Not anymore. She looked like she might break. I didn't care. Not anymore. I stood too. Oh, and the bill's on Miles's firm card, I added, slipping on my coat. Seems fitting, doesn't it? Miles didn't stop me. Neither did Sloane. Adrian opened the door for me, and we walked into the hallway like two survivors, leaving the scene of a crash. Outside, the city air was crisp. For the first time in days, I breathed without pain. You okay? Adrian asked. No, I admitted. But I will be. He nodded. If you ever want to talk. I do, I said. Just not tonight. We parted ways on the sidewalk. I crossed the street to the hotel without looking back. Only when I reached my suite did I let the tears fall. Not because I missed Miles, but because the woman I used to be had finally said goodbye. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, the city lights dancing across the walls like ghosts of all the moments I couldn't take back. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it, the candlelight on Miles's face, the way he looked at her, like he used to look at me. Maybe. Once. But the tears that came weren't for him. They were for her. The version of me that had believed she was safe. The one who folded his laundry while he texted another woman's sweet nothings. The one who never thought to doubt. She was gone now. Grief didn't even feel like the right word anymore. It was something stranger, like clearing away the rubble of a collapsed house and realizing you'd been living with termites all along. The morning came slow and quiet. No breakfast. Just black coffee and silence. My hands felt steady, my mind oddly sharp. I showered, changed into jeans and a black blouse, tied my hair back into a low bun. Not to impress. Just to armor up. At 8 a.m. on the dot, there was a knock on the door. I opened it, expecting housekeeping. Instead, Miles. He looked like hell. Hair unkempt, eyes bloodshot, still wearing the same wrinkled suit from the night before. I didn't move to let him in. Camilla, please just give me 5 minutes. I crossed my arms. You have too. He didn't argue. Just stepped back into the hallway and leaned against the opposite wall like his legs might fail him. I ended it, he said. Too late. I ended it last night. Right after you left. Out of guilt, or because you realized the fantasy doesn't work in daylight? He sighed. It was never real. Not really. Not the way it was with us. You mean when we built a life together? A home? Shared bank accounts and family holidays while you researched Airbnbs for secret getaways with someone else's wife. Cam, please. Stop calling me that. That shut him up. He looked down at his shoes. They were scuffed. A small detail, but one that felt poetic. He used to polish them every Sunday. I messed up, he said. I got caught up in something that felt exciting and No, I interrupted. You didn't get caught up. You participated. Willingly. Repeatedly. He swallowed hard. I want to fix this. I let out a bitter laugh. You want to fix this? Like a leaky pipe or a late tax return? He stepped forward. I didn't flinch, but I didn't move either. I'll do anything, Camilla. Therapy. Counseling. Total transparency. I'll shut down everything, my firm, my phone, whatever it takes. You're not sorry for what you did, I said coldly. You're sorry you got caught. His eyes widened, and I saw it. The moment he realized I wasn't bluffing, that the version of me he knew, the patient, quiet, accommodating wife, wasn't standing in front of him anymore. I didn't mean to hurt you, he whispered. But you did, I said. Every day for almost a year. Every lie. Every night you kissed me goodnight after kissing her first. You shattered us. He opened his mouth. I held up a hand. I'm not here to rehash the details. I know them. I've seen them. I've read the messages, looked at the photos, heard the lies. This conversation isn't about closure. It's about logistics. He blinked. Logistics? You have until Sunday night to clear out your things. I'll be staying here until then. After that, the locks change. I've already called a lawyer. We'll divide everything by the book. He looked stunned, like he couldn't believe I was serious. This doesn't have to be permanent, he said. It already is. And I closed the door. For the first time in months, maybe longer, I felt clean. Not happy, not healed, but clean. Then I called my lawyer friend Ava and scheduled a Monday consult. I was done pretending. By late afternoon, I found myself walking along the riverfront with a coffee in hand, the air crisp with early spring wind. I didn't expect to see anyone familiar. But then, standing near the pedestrian bridge, hands in his coat pockets, was Adrian. I almost turned around, but he looked up at the same moment and spotted me. His smile was tired, but real. You're a long way from Alara, he said. So are you. We stood quietly for a moment, watching the water move below us like time, slow, inevitable, cleansing. I've barely slept, he admitted. Me neither. I keep replaying it, he said. What I missed. What I let slide. I nodded. Same. He looked at me. Do you regret how it happened? I thought about that. No, I said. It was the truth. Raw, humiliating, and overdue. But the truth. I keep wondering how long she would have kept lying, he said. If we hadn't been there. Forever, I answered. Because comfort is addictive. Even when it's stolen. He nodded slowly. We walked together along the river, a quiet solidarity between us. At one point, he stopped and looked at me. Thank you, he said. For telling me. For letting me be there. I gave him a faint smile. You deserve the truth. So did you. And that was the most painful part. We hadn't gotten the truth until we dug it out ourselves. We parted ways at the corner. No promises. No drama. Just two people learning how to breathe again. That night, back in the hotel, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened a journal I hadn't touched in years. I wrote for an hour. Everything. The betrayal. The confrontation. The ache. The relief. It spilled out in ink, messy and honest. Then I tore out the pages, crumpled them, and threw them away. Because some things don't deserve to be archived. Saturday morning began with sunlight sneaking through the hotel curtains like it hadn't read the room. I blinked against it, surprised I'd slept at all. There's something strange about waking up alone after so many years of waking beside the same person. At first, it feels like a mistake. Then it settles into truth. I sat up in bed and stared out at the city's skyline. Miles was somewhere on the other side of it, packing his belongings. Or maybe still pacing our bedroom, waiting for the guilt to evolve into something useful. I didn't care. That's what startled me most. I didn't care what he was doing. Not anymore. The grief had burned itself out. What was left was quieter. Solid. Determined. I ordered breakfast to the room. Eggs, toast, fruit I wouldn't touch. I sat with my coffee and opened my laptop, not to search through Miles's digital trail again, but to draft an email to Human Resources at the university. Subject: Personal leave request. It wasn't just about needing space. It was about reclaiming my time. For too long, I'd taught classes, chaired committees, answered emails late into the night while Miles sent good night, beautiful messages to Sloan. I needed space to fall apart. And maybe build something new. My phone buzzed. A message from my sister. Felicia, he's out. Just drove off. I saw a storage truck in the driveway. I parked 2 blocks down so he wouldn't see me watching. Want pics? I actually laughed. Me, no evidence needed. Just knowing is enough. She sent back a thumbs up emoji and a middle finger one right after it. That was her way of saying I'm proud of you. I packed up the few things I'd brought to the hotel. Folded them with care. Took one last look around the room. I'd arrived here a broken wife. I was leaving something else. Not whole yet, but no longer bleeding. The house was exactly as I left it. Too quiet. Still too clean. The hallway mirror caught me off guard. I looked. Older. But steadier. Like I'd shed something invisible. Miles had taken only what I told him to, his clothes, laptop, toiletries. No framed photos. No kitchen mugs we collected from our travels. The picture of us from Lake Como still sat on the mantel. I took it down and placed it face down in a drawer. Then I walked upstairs and opened the windows. Let the stale air of lies drift out and made room for something real. By evening, the house felt more mine than it ever had. I lit candles. Ordered Indian food. Sat cross-legged on the couch in sweatpants and a hoodie, watching a crime documentary without anyone asking if we could change to sports or action. It was, in a word, peaceful. Around 9 p.m., there was a knock at the door. I froze. Then I opened it. Not Miles. Adrian. He held a small box of pastries and 2 coffee cups. I didn't know what your dessert style was, he said. So I went neutral French bakery. I stepped aside. Get in here before the neighbors start talking. He smiled and stepped inside. Everything feels different, he said, looking around. Cleaner. More honest, I replied. We sat at the kitchen island, opened the pastry box, and sipped coffee like it was the most normal thing in the world. I told my sister today, Adrian said. About the divorce? He nodded. She cried. Then offered to let me move into her pool house. I told her I'm not a heartbroken dog, just a guy reclaiming his space. I laughed. I love that. He looked at me. You're handling this better than most people would. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just spent too long ignoring the signs. Now, I don't want to waste another second on regret. He leaned forward, elbows on the island. Do you miss him? I thought about that. I miss the version of him I thought was real, I said. The Miles who brought me soup when I was sick. Who remembered the exact way I like my tea. But that version doesn't exist anymore. If he ever did. Adrian nodded. I keep wondering if Sloane ever loved me. Or if I was just the safe choice. She probably did, I said. At least once. But love without loyalty isn't love. It's sentiment. That silence between us wasn't awkward. It was understanding. He looked down at his coffee. You ever think about what comes next? All the time. And? I don't know yet, I admitted. But for the first time in years, the not knowing doesn't terrify me. It excites me. He smiled again. Same. We talked for another hour. About everything and nothing. Our favorite childhood snacks. Our worst dates. The cities we'd travel to if we didn't have to explain ourselves to anyone. When he stood to leave, I walked him to the door. Thanks for tonight, I said. Thank you for letting me in. I watched him walk down the steps and disappear into the cool night. Back inside, I looked around my home, the home I was reclaiming. No more whispered phone calls behind bathroom doors. No more pretending everything was fine. It had been 4 weeks since the dinner at Brannan's. For weeks since I watched Miles's double life dissolve under candlelight and silence. For weeks since Adrian and I left that room, strangers tied together by betrayal, and started down parallel paths towards something resembling peace. The legal process moved faster than I expected, probably because there was no longer anything to fight over. No children. No major financial entanglements. Just a shared history, split in half. Miles stopped pleading after the second week. First it was flowers, then voice messages, then a long, agonizing email at 2:47 a.m. filled with half regrets and tired tropes. I lost myself. She meant nothing. You're still the one I think about when I close my eyes. I didn't respond. What would I say? Thank you for gutting me with precision? Instead, I replied with 2 lines, professionally phrased. Please direct all further communication through my attorney. He never wrote again. Adrian and I kept in touch. At first, it was logistical, shared court dates, lawyer recommendations, real estate contacts. Then it turned into something else. He called me the night his divorce was finalized. She signed the papers, he said. No tears. No drama. Just a pen scratch and silence. How do you feel? Like I'm finally breathing again. I understood that. Not joy. Not celebration. Just air returning to lungs that had been tight for too long. We began meeting once a week. Sometimes for coffee, sometimes just a walk around the lake near his apartment. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't complicated. It was honest. And I craved honesty like oxygen. On a rainy Wednesday afternoon, I stood in the living room, my living room now, sorting through the final box of what used to be our things. I found an old photo album. Miles and me in Italy. Miles and me at my sister's wedding. Miles and me in bed one lazy Sunday, his eyes half shut, mine full of blind love. I closed the album. Not in anger, but in closure. I slipped it into the donation pile alongside our couple's mugs and his favorite throw blanket. That night, Adrian texted, Adrian, feel like getting out of the house? I found a taco place that doesn't serve betrayal with the guacamole. Me, I'll bring the sarcasm if you bring the napkins. We met at a tiny streetlit corner bistro. I wore jeans and a gray sweater. He was already there when I arrived, umbrella dripping beside his booth, sleeves rolled to his elbows. You look better, he said. Lighter. I feel lighter, I replied, sliding into the booth. You. Still occasionally wake up expecting her to be beside me. Then I remember. And breathe easier. We ate. We laughed. We told stories that had nothing to do with betrayal or loss. And at one point, when I was telling him about my worst first date in grad school, I noticed he wasn't laughing. He was just looking at me, softly, like he saw me. Really saw me. I'm sorry, he said quickly, catching himself. That was rude. I didn't mean to stare. It's okay, I said, lowering my eyes to my plate. I didn't mind. He reached across the table. Not for my hand. Just for my attention. Camilla, I don't want to overstep. You're not, I said. But I think I've started to look forward to seeing you more than I expected. The air between us stilled. I know we're both recovering, he added. And I don't want to rush anything or complicate things. But if there's a chance for something honest, something simple, I'd like to try. I should have been nervous. But I wasn't. Because for the first time in a long time, I knew what real felt like. And this was it. I'd like to try too, I said softly. He smiled then. That quiet, unguarded smile that only people who've been broken give. One that says I've been hurt before, but I'm still here. We left the restaurant under one umbrella, rain pattering softly on the sidewalk. When we reached my car, he paused, hesitant. Can I call you tomorrow? You'd better. He laughed, then kissed my cheek. And, just like that, something shifted. Not a replacement. Not a rebound. A beginning. 1 year later, I stood beneath soft cafe lights at a colleague's retirement party, holding a glass of white wine and making small talk with people who only knew half my story. The polished version. The public one. She's so strong, after everything. I heard her husband ran off with someone from his firm. She handled it with such grace. I couldn't have done it. They said these things kindly, but always with that undercurrent. The fascination people carry for a woman who refuses to crumble the way she's supposed to. I smiled when appropriate, laughed when I had to, and kept my real thoughts buried beneath the neckline of my favorite black dress. I caught sight of him near the back of the room, beside the buffet table, Miles. He looked older. Not physically, he still had the tailored suit, the clean shave, but something in his posture had changed. Shoulders slightly hunched, eyes scanning the room like a man searching for what he used to own. He saw me, froze, then made his way over like he wasn't sure if he should. Camilla, he said quietly. Miles. You look good. So do you, I lied politely. There was an awkward silence. Then he glanced toward the corner of the room where Adrian was talking to my friend Ava, his hand resting lightly on the back of my chair. Miles's voice dipped. So that's... Yes. He gave a sad half smile. He seems decent. He is. I'm glad. I believed him. Not because I thought he truly was glad, but because I could finally tell when Miles was performing sincerity. And this wasn't it. He looked back at me. I never properly apologized, he said. Not really. I was too busy trying to salvage the wreckage. And now? Now I know what I threw away. There it was. Not said with an agenda. Not designed to win me back. Just a simple truth, too late to matter. I'm sorry, Camilla. Truly. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. Or the urge to say something sharp. I hope you find happiness, Miles. He nodded slowly. You seem to have found yours. I took a sip of my wine. I'm building something new. Day by day. He didn't argue. Just gave a quiet goodbye and drifted into the crowd, like a page finally turning. Later, as the night wound down, Adrian appeared beside me, 2 fingers brushing mine. Ready to go? More than. We walked together under the canopy of downtown stars, his hand warm in mine. This wasn't a movie ending. No swelling orchestral music. No dramatic kiss in the rain. Just 2 people quietly walking towards something honest. He glanced over. You were quiet during that last speech. Just thinking about how the worst night of my life led to this. He slowed to face me. You ever think about that dinner? At Brannan's? All the time. He smiled. Me too. I reached for his hand. You know what I learned from all of it? What? That sometimes losing everything is how we find what really matters. He nodded. And that the people who break us don't get to decide if we stay broken. Exactly. The wind blew gently around us, and for the first time in over a year, I felt grounded. Present. Whole. Not because someone else completed me, but because I stopped waiting for someone else to define me. We turned the corner toward my home, my real home now, one filled with peace instead of performance. Adrian squeezed my hand. Dinner tomorrow? He asked. I smiled. Only if it's not at Brannan's. We laughed, walking forward, no longer looking back.